Okay, so the town of Sriracha, a little south of Bangkok.
Yes.
It was here that in 1949, a guy named Gimsua Timkrajong got an idea. He was a businessman, so he'd always be traveling around Thailand, but also he was in Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia. And like any self-respecting Thai businessman in the 40s, he liked hot sauce.
Hey.
But what he noticed in traveling around all these countries is that all the hot sauces he tried were either salty, sweet, or sour.
Okay.
It was one of the three.
Yeah.
But what Gimsua wanted was the Thai ideal known only as my new favorite phrase, klom-klorm.
Okay.
It's the term used for something that has that perfect blend of hot, sour, and sweet. Klom-klorm. Yeah, I love that there's a name for that in Thai. So Gimsua set out to make the perfect hot sauce that balanced salty, sweet, and sour. And what he came up with, he decided to name after his hometown, Sriracha.
Killer.
So he and the Sriracha Killer is who I'm here to talk about.
Take me.
Now that's a spicy murder. The sauce became popular, and apparently in Southeast Asia, people all just kind of make their own homemade hot sauces.
Right.
So people started trying to recreate the Sriracha sauce, and this spread out of Thailand and went all the way to Vietnam, which is where our story really begins with a man named David Tran. Cue our Vietnam montage. It's the same as the 60s montage, but just the worst parts, but it has a great soundtrack. So David Tran was born in 1945 in Soc Trang, Vietnam, and I don't know anything about his early life, but the Vietnam War, I read two different accounts of what he did during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Either he was a chef for the non-communist Vietnamese army, or he was a major in the non-communist Vietnamese army. So either way, he's not in the Viet Cong, is what
Right.
I don't want anyone to get the idea that this guy was in the Viet Cong.
If Richard Nixon is listening right now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea.
I know that Hoover's been after us for a while. When I run for president in 2024, I don't want people listening back to this and saying I sympathize with the Viet Cong. Oh no, I said it. So two completely opposite reports of his life, or maybe he was neither and he just had to live through the horrors of the Vietnam War, which kind of makes more sense because he seems like he was either too old or too young for either of those positions at the time. Whatever happened, when the war ended, he became a chili farmer with his brother, but the farm wasn't making any money. So like any self-respecting Vietnamese man in the 70s, he decided to start making his own hot sauce out of his chilies.
Heck yeah.
To sell. This was 1975, and he made a sauce out of chili peppers, soybean oil, garlic, salt, vinegar, and some spices that he called pepper satay sauce. He would bottle the sauce in recycled Gerber baby food bottles that were left at the U.S. bases, and he started riding around on his bicycle selling them, which begs the question, why were the U.S. troops eating baby food?
No, nobody could. There was no leaders. Nobody knew what they were doing. Who's in charge of this thing?
You've heard of the term fracking? It referred to their diet.
I feel like it's an indigestion thing that you have to eat baby food so you can poop regular. I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm just trying to justify a weird thing that you just told me.
They were smoking reefer, and then they got the munchies for some
reefer to be polite. The polite version.
They were doing naughty reefer, and
they were dropping reefer.
Hey, LBJ, send me some Gerber food today, man. So to brand his product, he paid a street artist to make a drawing that he could put on all the Gerber baby bottles.
Right.
And no, it wasn't Baby Nixon. He wanted an animal, and no, it wasn't Baby Agnew. He chose the zodiac animal from the year he was born, the rooster.
Killer.
Cock.
Killer cock.
That's you know that song? How many more things am I going to get over your head? Nobody remembers who that nameless street artist was, of course, but my best guess is that it was Banksy. So this was his now his logo was this rooster, because he was the year of the rooster. His makeshift hot sauce company had no name, but he started making money. But 1975 in Vietnam wasn't all hot sauce roosters and bicycles.
Well, what else was going on there?
Well,
was something else going on?
The problem was that something had just ended. A war had just ended that had been going on for 20 years, and in an example of American involvement that certainly could never be repeated, almost detail for detail, exactly about 26 to 46 years later, the country that had been so painfully fought over was collapsing back in on itself, with everything they had been fighting against taking full control. Saigon was taken by communist forces, and things were not great for the people of Vietnam.
Right.
Then in 1979, China invaded the country, starting the Sino-Vietnamese War, which lasted only a month, but between the two sides, about 50,000 people were killed in 1 month. China did this because they were angry that Vietnam was fighting with the Khmer Rouge along their border with Cambodia, because the Khmer Rouge were an ally of China, which they saw as Vietnam taking a stance in aligning itself more with communist Russia than with communist China, who wanted to maintain their grip on Southeast Asia. Is this?
Yeah, no.
You follow all this?
Yeah, I
Which genocide do you want me to clarify first? A byproduct of all this was the persecution of a group known as the Teochew, who were an ethnic group living within China for many years, but at a certain point in history, they were sort of forced out by China and made into a diaspora across Asia. So now that China was...
diaspora?
Oh, you don't listen to Diaspora 1070? It's like Jewish people are a diaspora, black people are a diaspora,
okay.
like people who have been displaced from their homeland.
Got it.
And are now just kind of everywhere.
Right.
So now that the China was the enemy to Vietnam, the Vietnamese government was cracking down on these ethnically. What the hell?
I'm getting so upset from all
You
this.
commie. Or you a commie sympathizer? I don't know.
I'm mad at both.
So the Vietnamese government was cracking down on these ethnically Chinese citizens of Vietnam, one of whom was David Tran. He was Teochew. They were pressured to hand over their possessions to the government and leave the country.
Right.
That's what Vietnam was telling these people. Tran and his family didn't want anything to do with this, so he took all the money he made from his hot sauce sales and cashed it into gold and arranged for he and his family to flee the country.
Right.
And he was not alone in doing this. Not just the Teochew, but millions of Vietnamese people who wanted desperately to escape from the new communist regime. Again, in an incident never to be repeated again in American international relations history. This was a mass exodus that lasted from 1975 through the 90s. And the people escaping were known as the Vietnamese boat people because the only way they could escape was by boat.
Right.
Like that's some 2 million people attempted this escape and many died in the process or were caught and tortured by the communists for trying to leave. They were also
We're pushing you out, but why are you leaving?
They were pushing out the ethnic minorities.
Oh, I see.
But you're a pure-blooded Vietnamese person. I'm going to torture you for this. There were also people doing the same thing out of Laos and Cambodia, and the boats ranged from big steamers that crammed a couple thousand people inside, or just a small boat that could fit a dozen people.
Right.
And they were just like the elves leaving Middle Earth. Like people were just like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
These boats would go port to port from places like Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Korea, and Australia. They would often get rejected at one and then go to another. Hopefully someone will take us in. Many even made the 3-month voyage all the way to the port of Los Angeles, which became known as the Ellis Island of the 70s because so many Southeast Asians were coming into America through San Pedro and Long Beach. Yeah. Many staying here in town, but many also relocating all around the country. Right. One person who did not come to LA was David Tran. He and his whole family...
No thanks.
With those Santa Ana winds. He and his whole family divided themselves up into 4 smaller groups to reduce the risk of the family being separated at the port of some random country and then the rest of them having to continue on to God knows where. Yeah. So this way there are 4 groups. Each 4 group would try one place and there was a higher chance of each of them all being taken in as one group so the family wouldn't lose contact with each other.
Right. It's so strange because you're telling me like, oh yeah, just call the other one when you land. But then like, no.
Is that crazy? I was thinking the same thing of like, well, you'll get to America and you'll just contact them. It was like 1978. You're never going to find them again. You're not going to find someone who ended up in Indonesia and you're in like Des Moines. Yeah. Like you're never going to see each other.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like I don't want to sound like a millennial, but like I don't understand how people would communicate easily.
What's a phone book?
A telegram?
So one group went to Indonesia, one to Hong Kong, one to Malaysia, and one to the Philippines. David got on a Taiwanese boat meant to hold 1,500 people with 3,317 other people that it was named Gathering Prosperity, or in Taiwanese, Huy Fong.
Oh, wow.
That was the name of his boat. It was a 5-day journey to Hong Kong where the captain told the authorities that the people on board had been shipwrecked at sea and he saved them all. And that's why like he didn't want to tell them like these are refugees, which nobody wanted to take in. So the British, they still didn't buy it and they refused them entry. So now they were just adrift at sea, not knowing where to go with nobody extending a hand to them. Yeah. They eventually waited in a UN refugee center somewhere in Southeast Asia before finally the US allowed them to dock in beautiful, sunny Boston.
And the welcoming people from Boston with open arms.
With open arms and a knife in each hand.
What do you mean you're not a Sox fan? I don't know what that means. I'm not from here.
Do you like the Bruins or do you like the Patriots? Those are 2 different sports. And one of them I don't even think is from Boston. I can't think of a single team from Boston other than the Boston Bruins.
The Boston Bruins?
How many references am I going to make? Don't you listen to Boston Bruin 1070? So he hated it in Boston. It was cold, and also it was cold. Yeah. But most importantly, it was cold. Yeah. But even more importantly, it was cold. But then the most important thing was that they didn't have any fresh red hot chili peppers, which to come from just out of war-torn Vietnam where the government was pressuring you to leave because of your race and then getting to Boston and being like, wow, this place is awful. Luckily, his brother-in-law had settled in LA, so one day he asked him if they had fresh red peppers there, and he said there were plenty, and off David went to Los Angeles. This was 1980, but when he got to LA, while there was plenty of fresh produce, he found himself very disappointed in the hot sauce options around town, and he wasn't alone. A lot of the Southeast Asian immigrants who were piling into LA at the time felt the same way, because like there were some Thai options available for hot sauce, but because of the way things were between the US and Vietnam, there was no options for Vietnamese people such as himself who wanted a familiar hot sauce to put in their pho and things like that. So after only being here for a month, he decided it was his righteous duty to fill that void, and he went to Grand Central Market, bought a bunch of red hot chili peppers albums, and went to
and pretty good at the beginning.
So he got these red hot chili peppers and he went to work recreating the pepper satay sauce he used to make back in Vietnam. He specifically went with red jalapenos, which are the same as green jalapenos, but they're left on the vine longer, which turns them red and makes them spicier.
Okay, that's the same thing. The same difference between Red Hulk and regular Hulk.
Yeah, he's been on the vine
longer. Yeah,
the anger vine. Eventually, he felt he got the recipe right, and he painted his signature rooster on the side of his van and went supermarket to supermarket and restaurant to restaurant in the Asian parts of town, mostly in Chinatown. Were they in baby food bottles again? I don't know. Maybe.
It's not a baby food bottle. It's a rooster bottle. Can you tell there's a rooster?
It's a baby rooster. It's a little chick. He clearly saw that he was satisfying a need, and soon he started selling his sauce in the Vietnamese places down in Little Saigon in the Forbidden Zone of Orange County. And after just 1 month, he made $1,000 in profit.
Pretty nice.
After a few years, the demand amongst the Asian community was so high that in 1983, how high was it? That in 1983, he cashed in his life savings once again, but this time to buy a 5,000 square foot factory on Spring Street in Chinatown, Los Angeles, to keep up with the demand. The machines he bought for the factory didn't work well for what he was doing, so he had to learn how to engineer and build and then invent new designs for machines that could get done what he needed to get done. Now, his original intention with making hot sauce was that he was trying to make something his fellow Southeast Asian expats would like, and as such, he never did any advertising. He just sold them to areas with that population, and if you knew about it, you knew about it, and everybody knew about it. Like, he never ran an ad, never did it on KNX 1070 or anything like that. Like, it just, much like, again, like this podcast, it just became so popular without just an unspoken popularity
no one
amongst the Asian community.
Amongst refugees.
Most of our listeners are refugees. But then something big happened in LA in 1984. No, it wasn't the revolution against Big Brother we were all hoping for. That's right. It was the Summer Olympics.
That's right.
They came to Los Angeles. The entire world descended upon LA, and this inspired David that maybe he should consider making a sauce that was meant not only for his fellow Southeast Asian immigrants, but something for the entire world. Like, he just got caught up in the Olympic spirit.
I'm sure everybody did,
I'm
making these woven baskets for the entire world.
He got the tattoo, the rings tattooed on his arm, and all he did was see like one karate match in Reseda.
It was kind of local, but it was a big deal to them, so I just kind of got
there was
caught up
an illegal kick to the head, but he still liked it. And the sauce he chose for this was a recreation of a sauce that was famous where he was from. We learned about a long time ago in this story, Sriracha. He created his own version of that hot sauce he knew from home, and he slapped it in a clear bottle with his rooster on it and a bright green cap that was meant to imitate the stem of a fresh chili pepper.
Never thought about that.
Yep. And suddenly there was a whole new type of hot sauce in Los Angeles, and for that matter, America.
Right.
It caught,
and for that matter, the world.
And for that matter, the solar system. And for that matter, the galaxy. And for that matter, the multiverse. Starring Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe and Benedict Cumberbatch, probably.
It caught on fast, first amongst the Southeast Asian community, but then the Asian cooks, much like Tapatio, the Asian cooks who worked in restaurants around LA started bringing Sriracha, Huy Fong Sriracha, into work to use in their personal meals that they would make for themselves. and then eventually it started getting incorporated into the food at those restaurants as well.
What's that green thing that you're putting on your food? Oh, nothing. You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it. There's not enough for both of us.
It's ketchup. It's ketchup. Use more ketchup.
It's Asian ketchup. Leave me alone.
A lot of times the spicy in a spicy tuna roll is sriracha itself.
Oh, really?
The popularity started to grow more and more amongst the general public, which led to an increased demand. So he had to move into a bigger factory that was 68,000 square feet in Rosemead in 1996, which was the former factory of Whammo, who is the company that invented hula hoops, frisbees, and slip and slides. And that's how the Sriracha slip and slide was invented. And as we all know too well, increased exposure to the general public means you have to deal with the opinions of the general public. That meant a lot of people complaining that the sauce was too hot, to which David responded, if you don't like it, use less. We don't make mayonnaise here.
That should have been the slogan of the bottle.
There's a lot of Vietnamese on the bottle. That's what he's saying. We don't make mayonnaise.
We don't make mayonnaise.
Lao Wai, which leads us to how he got it so hot. I got info on the peppers for you. Unlike you did not have this on Tapatio.
Hey,
David Tran, he's not so tight-lipped as
he wants the world to know.
As Jose Cuervo. David sourced all his peppers from one specific farm who he felt picked the perfect peppers for his...
Are you practicing? Are you getting ready?
I'm getting warmed up for when we start the episode. Yeah. So it was the perfect peppers for his picante sauce. Underwood Farms, which are in like Moore Park, they're in Ventura.
Oh, really?
They're right over here. A lot of people go there because they do like pick your own apples. So he joined up with them in 1988, and not only did he like the taste and spice of their peppers, they're right over here. So they were so close that he could have them picked in the farm and ground fresh in his factory the same day. Damn. They also worked as a team and tailored and modified their peppers to exactly what David wanted in terms of flavor. Right. And then they spliced it with this mosquito DNA.
And now there's an amusement park that nobody can go to. They keep trying.
That's the real reason why you can't go into the old Rocketdyne area of the Santa Susana Pass. It's because of the Sriracha dinos. I'm not afraid to say it.
You know that dinosaurs eventually evolved into the Sriracha rooster. A lot of people know that. That you probably had feathers.
That's on the Sriracha Jurassic Park. And you see the Sriracha rooster flying into the sunset.
Like, cool. Do I shoot this thing down?
Should we kill it?
Is it trying to attack? I don't know yet, but it could.
And then Jeff Goldblum falls asleep, and we all say goodnight, Jeff Goldblum. So they started out dedicated 50 of their acres at Underwood Farms to making peppers exclusively for Huy Fong, and eventually that grew to 1,700 acres, which was 75% of their whole farmland was devoted exclusively to making Huy Fong Sriracha.
God, that's amazing.
Huy Fong Sriracha was always popular from the day it came out, but around the mid to late 2000s, you probably remember.
I remember this.
I don't even know what references you get anymore, so maybe you remember this. For whatever reason, the internet really latched onto Sriracha, and it exploded in popularity. It became like a religion for people, and companies started capitalizing on that with Sriracha popcorn, Sriracha hummus, Sriracha croutons.
I remember everyone was wearing Sriracha shirts for a while.
Yeah. As I was doing research for this, someone walked by me with a Sriracha shirt. I'm like, you must have gotten that in the mid to late 2000s. Bon Appetit named it Ingredient of the Year in 2010. There's video of the astronauts eating it on the International Space Station.
Kidding.
In 2000,
it's been to space.
And this is also how Alien started. In 2007, the entire company sold out of their entire inventory in September, which meant there were 3 months of the year that they could not sell Sriracha because there was no Sriracha.
I guess I'm taking a vacation.
David also never patented the name Sriracha, so so tons of imitators popped up, and and the bottles, some of the imitators use the same exact bottle, but like the lid is yellow. And when a place like Taco Bell started doing Sriracha tacos, Huy Fong didn't see a penny of that. But David did not mind because he just saw this all as good publicity.
Right.
And he didn't have any reason to worry either, because not only was his Sriracha made with such high quality ingredients at a really high quality level, but it was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Tran has never raised the wholesale price of the sauce, and you can get like a giant bottle for maybe $5 at most. Like I saw a really big bottle yesterday for like $2.30.
Yeah.
In the afternoon. It cost $40. He always set out to make a rich man's sauce at a poor man's price. Right. That's all he wanted to do. It's so cheap. Like we were talking about at restaurants, you'll see that they'll just put an entire bottle of it out on each table like it's ketchup, which is also part of the reason it became so popular, because people got visual recognition of seeing this hot sauce at the restaurant, because they don't care. Like if someone's going to run out with their Sriracha bottle, like, oh, big deal. And I do. And they don't chase. They can't chase you.
They can't legally. They can't chase you
unless it's over $5 worth of sriracha, and it never is.
It never is, baby. I weigh it.
They became so big. How big did they become? That they outgrew the Whammo factory.
Wow, really?
And in 2010, they started building a $40 million, 170,000 square foot brand new factory in Irwindale at, here's that word again that for some reason is trouble for me, Azusa Canyon Road and Cypress Street, which is now Irwindale's biggest building, is the Sriracha factory. They can tell the seasons by how the sun hits the Sriracha factory. And on the equinox, it's beautiful the way that the sun hits the sambal. This new factory operates 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, capable of grinding over 1 ton of peppers a minute, 21 tons a day, and about 100 million pounds a year, churning out 3,000 bottles of hot sauce an hour and some 20 million bottles of hot sauce a year. But it wasn't all smooth sriracha for Huy Fong. At times, it was downright chunky sambal. To start, the proud residents of Irwindale persuaded the proud city of Irwindale to sue Huy Fong.
Why?
In 2013, because the residents complained that the spicy smell from the factory was like tear gas and was making their throats hurt and their eyes water.
Fair.
This is a perfect example of a NIMBY. These are NIMBYs, Greg.
Okay.
What I'm telling you about are NIMBYs.
I thought it was Kimby, not in my backyard.
I thought it was Kirby. Are these people not all Kirby's that we're talking about? They swallow other characters
and
then
they become big.
They fly around. David assured them that his factory didn't smell and that they only actually grind the chilies for 3 months of the year during late summer to mid-autumn, which was the harvest. He even opened up the factory to free weekly tours to show people that nothing overtly stinky was going on. He hung a banner that said no tear gas made here. That's also on the bottle. But the lawsuit ended up partially shutting down the factory temporarily, which led to David threatened to move the factory out of California, which was so serious a threat that Governor Jerry Brown had to personally broker a peace treaty between Huy Fong and the city of Irwindale, because that would be a huge financial blow to California if they left. As part of the agreement, they had to install new filters into the factory to keep the smells inside, and the citizens of Irwindale had to grow up. And in May 2014, the lawsuit was dropped. I say that, but if I lived across the street from
absolutely.
I would never. And like my baby was turning red every day because of
you would complain if a building was too tall. You'd be like, "What? How dare they?
My wind current.
I couldn't see that cloud that looked like a dog for 5 minutes.
A bird flew behind it, and if that building wasn't there, I could have seen the bird for longer." It was an egret, Craig.
My favorite. You know that. And you know what? Governor Jerry Brown knows that.
And his son, or his dad? Who was the other Brown?
I don't know. My only reference for Jerry Brown is the Dead Kennedy song.
Jerry Brown, Jerry Brown. Then a more permanent problem arose in 2017 when a financial dispute arose between Huy Fong and Underwood Farms.
Oh, no.
Which led to their partnership being terminated.
That's where all the stuff comes from.
Yeah, you don't have sauce without the chili. That also says that on the bottom. It's a really long label. Underwood Farms started making their own sriracha using their peppers, while Huy Fong had to find new suppliers elsewhere in California, New Mexico, and Old Mexico.
Okay.
Which kind of pained David because he prefers to get as many ingredients as he can from the U.S. because he wants to repay the favor to the only country that granted him asylum. Right. Some people feel that the sauce isn't the same since they switched suppliers. Then there was a personal slam from the granddaughter of the originator of the original sriracha sauce.
Okay. I was waiting for this.
Yeah, this malevolent force in the shadows, it should not be forgotten. Something of a Coach Kreese, Sensei Kreese, sorry, Cobra Kai. The traditional sriracha is thicker, sweeter, and tangier than Huy Fong's version.
Right.
And the granddaughter says that she hates the Huy Fong version.
Whoa.
She says it's just overpoweringly hot with no other flavor and is definitely not clom-clorm.
Give me some of this clom-clorm so I could try it. I'll happily be like, okay.
Clom-clorm is a state of mind.
Okay, they both taste like pain. Okay, great.
Well, you know what? I kind of agree with her. I'm not a huge fan of sriracha, of the Huy Fong sriracha, because I do feel like it's certainly spicy, but I don't really like the flavor. Like it's very vinegary and I don't really, it kind of overpowers you.
Right.
I do really like their chili garlic. I will say that.
Okay.
In fact, it's part of my chili arsenal, my hot sauce arsenal.
Arsenal? Some people collect closets full of guns in case something happens. I collect a bunch of chilies in case.
And mine are also locked up in case I don't want my kid to
hurt himself with one of those chili bottles.
Or a friend. or me. The granddaughter went on to add another slap in the face saying champagne is one kind of drink, sriracha is one kind of sauce. Whoa. Like it's not sriracha unless it's from Sriracha.
Wow.
She doesn't like that David used their name for his sauce, but if you want to see if this lady can back up her words, her original family brand is Sriracha Panich, which I have not been able to find anywhere in town. And believe me, I have looked. And sticks and stones can break his bones, but hurtful words about his peppers don't really matter because David Tran is laughing all the way to the spice bag.
Yes.
He says, I know it's not Thai Sriracha, it's my Sriracha, which is a rhyme I don't know if he intended, but it's pretty good.
It worked, and that should be...
it's on the bottom.
It's on the bottom.
Add it to the bottom.
Get rid of the ingredients and just add it to the bottle.
Yeah, no sort of warnings like there might be lead in this, just giving the rhyme. And his Sriracha controls 10% of the entire hot sauce market in the United States. But it's not even about the money for him, which is something only people with money can say. He's not interested in ever selling the company because he's more interested in just providing a good hot sauce to people who want it rather than the profits like other companies are. Right. And that's a slam on whoever you cover. That's why he keeps it within the family with his son as the president, his daughter as the vice president.
These chili people keep it in the family.
I know, they really do. It's two chilies on a pod.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Two chilies in a podcast. Here we go.
That's the name of the episode.
He also never set out to become a billionaire, which is something only billionaires can say.
I didn't know how I was going to make it this far.
Oh, I only wanted $400 million. He said that he just wanted to make enough fresh chili sauce so that everyone who wants Huy Fong can have it. Nothing more. He keeps it simple. They only make 3 sauces. They make sriracha, sambal, olek. I don't really know how to pronounce that. Yeah. And chili garlic. I know how to say that. And that's the one I like. Chili garlic. I love that. They still never advertise because they don't have to. And they employ no salespeople because they also don't have to. Right. He just wants to keep making it. And he wants to keep making it spicier as well. Like I think it's spicier than it used to be. He also seems like a really friendly guy. Like everything, he seems nice. He usually greets people on the end of those tours and he reads fan emails. Whoa. And he even takes recipe suggestions, I guess. So next time you drive through Irwindale and start coughing, just remember this and smile. It's not just the COVID.